I am Reverend Daniel Ogbamikete, Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission. The SEC has signed an MOU with IOCO, and this is not strange. Actually, the SEC has had a long-standing collaboration with IOCO, because basically the mandates of the two entities, if you like, are complementary. So the SEC's mandate is to regulate and promote the growth and development of an efficient, fair and transparent securities market in which investors and the integrity of the market are protected, while IOCO, on the other hand, has a mandate to prevent and detect organized crime and generally to facilitate the confiscation of the proceeds of crime. So what happens is that when we at the SEC detect activity that borders on economic crime, we would refer them to the IOCO, because IOCO has the requisite powers to prosecute, not just to investigate. So we have signed this MOU basically to cement this partnership, of this relationship, all with the common agenda of reducing the incidence of economic crime. So while we look at the securities industry and activities of people that would basically lead to, as it were, defrauding unsuspecting investors, we need to have this close collaboration with IOCO to pick up the leads that we would send to them, so that the culprits behind these scams can be apprehended and, where necessary, be made to face the full rigors of the law. So basically, this MOU is just to make us deliver on our respective mandates, but ultimately to reduce economic crime, to protect unsuspecting investors, and to, as it were, engender confidence within the savings and investment space. Well, in terms of the key highlights of the MOU that the SEC and the IOCO have signed, and if you like, the expected outcomes, maybe I'll just highlight a few. So you find that the securities industry is a specialized area, and so there's a need for us to be able to share with IOCO some of the dynamics of how the securities industry works. At the same time, our work would involve some investigation, and we can benefit from the skill or the expertise or the experience of IOCO in terms of deepening our capacity to do some level of investigation into some of the activities that take place in our space. So we'll be having joint training where, as it were, we learn from IOCO, IOCO also learns from us, so that we can do better with respect to our mandate. We also expect from the MOU to share information, because what happens is that IOCO will pick up some information. Some people will report some of these fraudulent schemes to them, but we also get some of the reports, and we also have information on some entities that may be involved in such activities. So information sharing is also enshrined in this MOU. And then we would also be issuing a joint statement, and I think we have recently issued one warning the general public about some 17 entities that are operating, that we believe that the investing public should be careful when they are approached by any of these entities. So basically, joint training, information sharing, where necessary, issuing joint statements are some of the elements of the MOU that we have signed. Well, in terms of the outcomes that we envisage from the signing of this MOU, one, I would say that we expect for the capacity of staff at both IOCO and SEC to be deepened, following from the training sessions that we'll be having. I expect, secondly, greater efficiency in addressing issues in relation to financial crimes. I expect that we can be more proactive in it, so that we don't wait for, as it were, the crime to occur, but basically to be more proactive. I'm expecting that as a result of this MOU and the collaboration that it would forge, we will be able to bolster public confidence, because the investing public, or the general public as it were, would know that the institutions that are set up to protect their interests are being proactive, and they have their eyes on the ball, and they'll take the steps to protect them. And of course, hopefully we expect that the incidence of crime would be reduced. I'm talking about financial crime would be reduced, because again, the collaboration hopefully will lead to not only apprehending the culprits behind these fraudulent schemes, but also the ability to do asset tracing, and where possible, confiscation and recovery, so that people do not walk away with the loot from their unjust schemes. So I think all in all, we're expecting this MOU to really help to bolster confidence in the securities industry. Well, the reason why the SEC and the EOCO have issued the joint statement, or the joint press release recently, is to achieve a couple of things. Firstly, we believe that the informed investor is a well-protected investor. And so to avoid people falling prey, if you like, to some of these schemes. And these schemes come and they look so interesting, they look so compelling. So it's important that we alert the investing public that these schemes, we are aware that they are there, we haven't licensed them, and so be careful in dealing with them. Secondly, we issue this press release to bring out the fact that both EOCO and the SEC have done some investigation on these entities. We are still carrying on with our investigation, so that we'll get to, if you like, the logical end. But this is again to signal, to especially those who are out there who are behind, these entities, that the law will catch up with them, and they are well advised to cease from, such activities. In terms of why we are picking on these entities, what I would say is that these are the ones that we have done some investigations, both institutions, to a certain level where we have a view of how they are set up, and the need to caution the unsuspecting public about dealing with these entities. And so there are a number of other entities that we are still doing some investigation, but for these 17 entities, from the way we understand their activities, they look like activities that should be regulated in the securities industry. They are not licensed, and actually their modus operandi raises a lot of questions. And so we have to warn the public that these entities are not licensed. We are still investigating and trying to get to the people behind them, and deal with them the way they need to be dealt with, in terms of what the law or the laws of the land prescribe. So that is the story. And as I have alluded to, there are actually a lot more entities that have come to our notice, and we would come out in due course when we are clear, with our investigations on these other entities. In terms of what I would advise the general public when it comes to some of these schemes that would be knocking on their doors, I would say that, number one, if an entity is not licensed, do not deal with that entity, because then there is no level of, if you like, protection for you because they are unlicensed. What the general public needs to understand, that when it comes to especially financial services or financial products, they come under what we call regulated activities. It's not like setting up shop to sell tomatoes or milk or any of those things. So anyone purporting to be offering some financial product yield some returns, no matter how attractive it is, the first question you must ask, is this scheme licensed? If it is not, please look for the exit and do not deal with that entity. And the next thing you can do is to report these or such entities either to the SEC or to EOC or any other law enforcement agency. If you are in doubt, please, you can simply contact the SEC, because the SEC is the regulator for the securities industry, to confirm whether this entity or that entity has been licensed, or whether the products they are purporting to offer have been licensed. You will do yourself a lot of good if you just do this check before you deal with any entity. So please, my advice, if you allow me to repeat myself, do not deal with any entity that has not been licensed, because financial services, financial products, they are all regulated activities. So you must have a license before you can operate there. The challenge is, if you fail to heed this advice and then you deal with the a scheme that is not licensed, granted that maybe the scheme may be apprehended, but usually the money may be gone, because the people behind such schemes, they tend to fritter away the wealth that they garner. So you are well advised to desist from patronizing the services of such enterprises or such schemes. If you do so, you do so at your own risk. When it comes to the modus operandi of such unlicensed entities, it's quite varied, but I would say that baseline, they will be offering you what I would describe as some mouth-watering returns. And as the rule goes, if it's too good to be true, it probably is not true. So that's the starting point. But they would come in different forms, sometimes about if you introduce some number of clients, you get some points. They usually operate in the cyberspace online. They usually do not have a fixed office location that you can go. Their business models are opaque. In other words, you don't understand. Now, a financial product or an investment product is not supposed to operate like a black box. You should be able to understand what is underneath or underlying that financial product. But you find that such schemes, you can't understand, you don't know what is behind. All that they'll be selling you is, you will get this, I'll double your money, and so on and so forth. And again, they may use various schemes to win your confidence. You find sometimes would, their advertisement may look very interesting. They may even use some personalities, sometimes even without the consent of those personalities, use their pictures. They can get into social media, some of these groups on WhatsApp, they will hack and then be sending messages to contact. If you find any of these features, you just must know that you are confronted by one of those schemes that are likely to scam you if you are not careful. But as I said, usually the baseline is offering you returns that are too good to be true, and do not be misled by some of the testimonies that they may post to convince you. It's all part of the the trickery, just to make you believe that it's real. And like I said, once they are not licensed, please look for the exit. Okay. So I know people ask that why will the SEC not just go ahead and arrest the corporates and then or shut them down? And let me provide some responses. Number one, a lot of the people behind these schemes tend to be faceless as they operate, especially online or in the cyber space. So tracking them doesn't come easy. Indeed, our engagement with Iyoko is to assist us because they have the infrastructure to do more extensive investigations. But it is not exactly easy to be able to track the people behind. They are fleet-footed. You won't find them in any given place. They even tend to change the numbers. I want to believe that the current exercise of registering the SIM cards with a Ghana card would even help in our efforts to be able to track the people behind these schemes down. But what I can say is that investigations are ongoing. We are looking for all the options to be able to apprehend the people behind these schemes and then to bring them to face the full rigors of the law. So that is one. But why we believe it's necessary to issue this press release is that at least we need to inform the general public that these are schemes that are not licensed, and therefore anyone dealing with them could be exposing himself or herself unnecessarily. At least we owe that duty to give that warning. And part of our mandate is to continuously educate the public, especially on the telltale signs of Ponzi schemes, pyramid schemes, because they operate everywhere. Our country is not excluded. And the thing about these schemes is that when you take action, they may go under for a while and then they will surface. So from time to time, we need to be issuing such notices to alert the public that there are schemes that are not licensed and they are likely to scam them, and therefore they need to be careful. Another reason why a press release of this nature is useful is that it would let people who have had some experiences with even schemes that haven't yet come to our notice realize that probably there may be something wrong with this entity, or my money that they promised me hasn't come, so probably there's something wrong. Then they may even report them, and then we can follow up on those leads to see what can be done. So announcing or issuing this press release has some value, but I can assure you that we are not going to relent in our efforts to see the possibility of tracking the corporates behind these schemes.
So what are the next steps after the issuance of this press release? What can the public expect?
Well, after the issuance of this press release, we will continue to keep our eyes on the ground our investigations team is actually being proactive, or being more proactive, to pick out such schemes that may be operating underground, and again to expose them. We believe that when we expose them, we reduce their effectiveness, we alert the public, and then we at least reduce the chance of people being scammed. So we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to work with IOCO as we get information that would assist us, to deal with the corporate. We'll do so. Now, cognizant of the fact that a lot of these entities are exploiting the cyberspace online for their schemes, we are also pursuing engagement with other agencies, especially those that have oversight over telecommunications and so on and so forth, just to see how we can pull together in addressing this menace. So basically, we'll continue to keep our eyes on the ground, just to make sure that we stamp out these fraudsters from the system. I know it's a daunting task, and like I said, they will tend to go underground and then they will surface. So we'll continue to work with all the law enforcement agencies. We'll also step up our investor education campaigns. We'll cover the entire nation. We'll make sure that we really get people to understand how investment works. That's real investment or true investment, how they work, so that when people come and offer something that is not true, that is fake, they can identify that this is not a real investment scheme. This is a Ponzi scheme, a pyramid scheme, or some other scam of sort. So we will step up our market education and investor education, so people can tell the real from the fake. But basically, we will commit ourselves to work to protect the investors and of course the integrity of the market, and get out all these fraudsters, or stop them from operating as much as we are able to. Anyone looking for more information on these schemes, or any relevant information on the securities industry, you can kindly contact us. You can visit our website, www.sec.gov.gh. You can get a lot of information from there. You can also contact us via our toll-free number, 0800-1000065, to reach us. And you can also send information to our email, info@sec.gov.gh, and we'll be happy to respond to you and to help give you some guidance on what to do in dealing with these schemes.